The old washing court sat between the meal hall and the outer disciple quarters. It had once been used for cleaning robes and training mats before a newer water array was built closer to the dormitories. Now the court was mostly neglected: cracked flagstones, dry basins, a shallow drainage trench, and 3 leaning stone posts where wet cloth used to hang. The place remained useful for arguments because stewards rarely passed through unless summoned, and because sound did not carry cleanly past the surrounding store walls. By the time Lin Fan reached the side path overlooking it, Ch02 had already gathered an audience. Not a large one. Large crowds required time. This crowd had been assembled quickly from those hungry for the next version of the morning's story. 15 outer disciples stood around the court in loose clusters. Some had come from the meal hall with bowls still in hand. Some wore training wraps. Some pretended they had only been passing by. All watched Ch02 because Ch02 was loud, and loud men often became temporary centers before consequences arrived. Ch02 stood near the center. He had changed robes. The cleaner test robe was gone, replaced by a darker training robe tied tight at the waist. The message was obvious: the pillar might be uncertain, elders might interfere, but a fight would restore what the morning had damaged. 4 disciples stood near him. 2 were his usual followers, looking more nervous than loyal. The third was a heavy-armed boy named Mayon, 5th minor stage of body tempering, useful when someone needed a doorway blocked. The 4th leaned against a stone post with a relaxed smile and narrow eyes. Lu Chun. Lin Fan remembered him as the kind of man who survived the outer mountain by never being first to strike and rarely being last to profit. He had a mid-grade metal root, decent hand technique, and a talent for making other people speak the dangerous words. In the first life, Lu Chen had later attached himself to an inner disciple's servant network and disappeared upward before anyone could settle old grudges. He should not have cared enough about Ch02's humiliation. Therefore, he wanted something. Lin Fan stopped at the top of the side path and watched. He did not enter immediately. Indifference was not stillness. It was selection. He selected what mattered. Ch02's right wrist moved freely. No lasting injury. His breathing was fast. Anger high. Judgment poor. Mayon's stance favored defense. He expected to block escape, not join first. The 2 followers watched Ch02 and Lu Chen alternately. Their loyalty was already divided. Lu Chen's hands were empty, but his sleeves hung slightly stiff at the forearms. Hidden wrist guards, likely ironwood. He expected contact. His gaze moved often toward the meal hall path, checking for stewards. Good awareness. The court itself offered 3 useful features. Cracked stones near the northern basin. A foot placed wrong would slide. Dry drainage trench along the east side. Narrow enough to trap a heel. Stone posts at the center. Hard edges at rib height. Lin Fan's current body could not overpower Ch02 in a direct contest. It could make Ch02 meet stone at the correct angle. The root pain pulsed. He took 1 cooling leaf from his sleeve and placed it under his tongue. Bitter cold spread through his mouth. It would not heal, but it would slow the fever and sharpen the senses for a short time. Then he descended the path. Someone saw him first. He came. The words moved through the court. Heads turned. Ch02's shoulders stiffened before he faced Lin Fan. That small delay told the audience more than he intended. He had been demanding Lin Fan's presence, but the sight of him still struck the morning's uncertainty back into his body. Lu Chen noticed too. His smile deepened. Junior brother Lin, Lu Chen called. Everyone was worried. Elder Gu ordered you to remain nearby, yet you vanished from the treatment room. That sounds dangerous for a disciple with root pain. Good opening. Polite words. Public concern. Hidden accusation. Lin Fan walked into the court and stopped outside the center circle of broken stones. You were worried? The question was quiet. Lu Chen's smile did not change. The sect worries for all disciples with unusual conditions. Then bring Elder Gu. The court went still.
Lu Chen's eyes narrowed by a fraction.
Xianxia reacted more openly.
Do not pretend you want elders here.
Lin Fan looked at him.
You said I ran. Xianxia's jaw tightened.
If I ran, Lin Fan said, bring the elder and claim credit for finding me. Several disciples exchanged glances.
Lu Chen's polite accusation had been turned too quickly.
If they called a steward now, Xianxia's gathering would look like harassment of a disciple under observation. If they did not, the claim that Lin Fan had run weakened.
Lu Chen stepped away from the stone post. No need to trouble elders over a misunderstanding.
Then it is a misunderstanding. Lin Fan did not ask.
He placed the conclusion in the court and let everyone look at it.
Xianxia's face darkened.
You think twisting words makes you strong? No. Then fight. There it was. Simple. Crude. Necessary for him.
Lin Fan let his gaze move over the watching disciples before returning to Xianxia.
Why? Xianxia blinked. Why?
You lost training yard access.
Your complaint is under review.
You stepped back in front of witnesses.
Now you want to fight in an abandoned court before stewards arrive. Lin Fan paused.
Why should I help you repair your face? The words struck the court like a dropped blade.
For a breath, no one spoke.
Then whispers erupted. Xianxia's face flushed so red that the veins in his neck stood out.
Say that again. You heard it. Ma Yong inhaled sharply.
One of Xianxia's followers looked down at his bowl as if the rice inside had become fascinating.
Lu Chen's smile thinned. Lin Fan had not simply insulted Xianxia. He had described the mechanism. Public humiliation often survived because no one named its need aloud.
By saying Xianxia wanted to repair his face, Lin Fan made every demand for a fight look desperate. Xianxia felt the trap but not its edges.
You are afraid, he said. Of what? Me.
Lin Fan looked at him for 2 breaths.
Then he looked away.
The dismissal was small.
It did more damage than laughter.
Xianxia stepped forward.
Ma Yong shifted to block the side path behind Lin Fan.
The 2 followers spread slightly, not fully surrounding him, but suggesting it.
Lu Chen remained near the stone post, watching for the moment when intervention would cost less than silence.
Lin Fan noted each movement.
Good.
Now the court had witnesses to coercion. Outer disciples may challenge each other, Lu Chen said lightly, as if reciting a rule for everyone's benefit.
As long as no weapons, no crippling, and both agree.
Lin Fan turned his eyes to him.
Both agree. Naturally. Then I refuse.
Xianxia's expression froze. The crowd shifted. Refusal was not expected. A weak disciple was supposed to either accept under pressure or flee and lose face. A calm refusal left the pressure standing naked in the court.
Lu Chen's smile hardened. That is your right.
Xianxia spun toward him.
What?
Lu Chen did not look at Xianxia.
It is his right. Then he added, still smiling, unless there is a grievance requiring settlement.
There.
The second hook. Xianxia seized it.
There is. He injured my wrist this morning with some trick. He caused me to lose training yard access by slandering me before elders. And now he steals from the kitchen during inspection. Lin Ro had kept quiet, then. The kitchen theft claim came from someone else. Or guesswork.
Lin Fan's expression did not change. Proof?
Xianxia sneered. Show your sleeves. The packet of root powder and cooling leaves rested inside the inner fold.
Not good. Not fatal.
Lin Fan let his eyes move to Lu Chen. The narrow-eyed disciple watched with sharper interest now. So the theft accusation had been arranged to force exposure. If Lin Fan refused to show his sleeves, suspicion grew. If he complied, the packet might be found. If he attacked, Xianxia gained the grievance.
Reasonable. For an outer disciple.
Lin Fan raised his left hand slowly.
The crowd leaned in.
Instead of opening his sleeve, he pulled the fabric back just enough to reveal the bruised Zhang who had left yesterday.
Dark three-finger marks. Silence spread again.
You want to inspect my sleeves, Lin Fan said, after elders asked who injured me.
Zhang Hu's confidence faltered.
Lin Fan lowered his hand.
Call a steward.
Tell him you gathered disciples here to search a disciple marked for elder examination.
Lu Chen's eyes changed. He saw the problem immediately. Zhang Hu did not. Stop hiding behind elders. You invoked rules first. Because you are a coward. Because you need permission. Another cut. The crowd reacted before they could stop themselves. A few sharp breaths. One muffled laugh.
Someone whispered, "He does."
Zhang Hu heard it. His control broke. He lunged. No formal agreement. No bow. No steward witness.
No clean challenge.
Just anger crossing the court.
Lin Fan had been waiting for that.
He moved one step back. Not away from danger.
Toward the cracked northern stones.
The small-scale duel began with Zhang Hu thinking he had chosen it. The first watching circle tightened. No one announced it. No one needed to. Outer disciples understood how to shape a fight without admitting responsibility for one.
Those at the rear stepped onto low stones for a better view. Those near the side path drifted inward until the exit narrowed. Ma Yong did not fully block Lin Fan's retreat, but he placed his body where retreat would require asking space from him.
The court had become a cage made of plausible accidents.
Lin Fan approved of the structure.
It made witnesses complicit.
Complicit witnesses remembered carefully when later asked whether they had seen anything improper. Some would lie to protect themselves. Some would tell partial truths to shift blame. Some would suddenly discover moral concern once the result made concern profitable. All of them would carry the event differently than passive observers.
That meant the story would spread with more force.
Zhang Hu rolled his shoulders and tried to look as if he had regained control.
Dust from the old court clung to the hem of his training robe.
His eyes remained fixed on Lin Fan, but they flickered once toward Lu Chen, seeking confirmation that the moment still belonged to him.
Lu Chen gave him a small nod.
There was the leash. Zhang Hu thought Lu Chen had come to support him. Lu Chen had come to manage him.
The difference mattered.
A supported man could act boldly. A managed man became a tool. Lin Fan wondered whether Zhang Hu would realize that before or after the tool cracked.
The cooling leaf under Lin Fan's tongue softened.
Bitter cold began to seep into his mouth. He let it spread slowly, matching breath to taste.
Pain in the root junction quieted by a thin margin.
The right meridian still throbbed.
His left shoulder remained uninjured for now. That would likely change.
One did not win every exchange by remaining untouched. Sometimes the cheapest path through a stronger opponent was to decide which injury could be purchased at a discount. Zhang Hu lifted his hands.
The crowd leaned in.
Lin Fan lowered his gaze, not in fear, but to watch feet, knees, hips, and breath.
Faces lied. Feet confessed early.
Zhang Hu's feet confessed impatience. His right foot pressed into the stone before every sentence, ready to drive forward. His left foot adjusted after, as if catching up with decisions already made. That gap between intention and support was where falls lived. Lin Fan watched it more closely than the fists.
Ma Yong's feet confessed reluctance.
He kept his weight on the outer edge of his soles, prepared to move aside if the fight turned official. He was not Zhang Hu's loyal shield. He was a rented wall, and rented walls did not hold when fire reached the foundation.
Lu Chen's feet confessed caution. Still. Balanced. Angled toward two exits. He had arranged pressure without entering it. A clever habit. But stillness could also become evidence.
If matters turned, everyone would remember he stood close enough to stop the challenge and chose not to.
That could be used. The crowd's feet confessed hunger. They moved inward by inches whenever Xianxia spoke, outward by half inches whenever Lin Fan answered. They wanted spectacle, but feared being named as participants. This was the true body of the outer mountain, a ring of people close enough to watch pain and far enough to deny responsibility.
Lin Fan had been part of such rings in the first life, though usually at the center. Now he stood there by choice. That changed the value of every stone beneath him. Xianxia lifted his chin.
You done looking at the ground? No. The answer came too calmly.
A few disciples stared.
Xianxia's mouth tightened. What is there to look at? Where you will fall. The court inhaled. Lu Chen's eyes sharpened.
Xianxia laughed, but the sound was forced.
You think you can make me fall?
Lin Fan looked up at last.
You already stepped back today. Falling is not far.
The insult struck exactly where the morning had wounded him.
Xianxia moved. The movement snapped the court's hesitation.
Those who had been pretending this was still only talk now had to decide whether to remain.
No one laughed.
That decision condemned them to memory. Later, when the story spread, each would say they stayed because leaving would look suspicious, because the path was blocked, because they wanted to make sure no one was badly hurt.
All of those explanations would be decorations placed over the simpler truth.
They wanted to see Lin Fan fall.
Lin Fan let them want it. Desire made disappointment sharper.
Xianxia crossed the first step with too much force. Dust jumped around his heel.
The cracked stone beneath Lin Fan's foot waited like a prepared answer.
Lu Chen's hand twitched once at his side, perhaps already realizing Xianxia had moved too soon.
Ma Yong lowered his chin.
The followers leaned forward. Every eye in the old washing court fixed on the space between Xianxia's hand and Lin Fan's throat. That space belonged to Lin Fan now. He had no strength to waste filling it. He only needed Xianxia to enter it wrongly.
The hand came down.
It came with the confidence of yesterday.
That confidence no longer belonged to today. Today had already begun taking things back.